I'd like to thank the Vice Chair for taking us through that. I recognize for Council, this is a bit of a lengthy presentation, but the Commission is a unique entity, and it is the one time this year that it is reporting. So we wanted to make sure that we were covering a lot of bases and providing you with a lot of information, especially coming up for 2017 budget. So I just want to speak to a couple of the initiatives that have been mentioned from the department's perspective, because there's been a few very exciting things that have happened this past year, and we wanted to give you some of the detail around that, the metrics specifically. I want to quickly go through the department again, because as Councillor Roberts said, we are the operational arm, essentially, of the Commission. And everything that we are doing from day to day. So as you know, the museums of Prince Edward County are a part of the department. We are managing surplus lands. We are your lead on real estate. We do manage social media. There's been a number of stakeholder partnership projects, whether that's physician recruitment and retention, which is coming up, or some of our partnerships with the business associations that we take a lead on. Visitor services is new, as you've heard. The Chamber is divesting itself of that. We're taking that back over, and the Commission has a plan in place for next year. Anything that you consider traditional economic development is housed within community development. So the BR&E that we talked about at the last committee of the whole meeting, a lot of our workshops, that's typical of economic development departments for municipalities. As you're aware, we played a lead in your corporate strategic planning exercise, and we've been asked to facilitate other initiatives like the work that's happening at the corner of Wharf and Main property, 282 Main Street in Wellington, associated with the Lane Creek project. Destination marketing has always been an important part of what we were doing, and I'm sure you were aware we're seeing a lot of growth in our visitation in the county, so we do feel that has been successful. We have a dedicated staff member who is looking after a majority of corporate grant applications, contracts and lease agreements, including applications for major capital projects. We have a downtown revitalization program that is wrapping up at the end of this year, but from that there will be information that will be provided to planning, to some of our initiatives that will help us work better for our downtowns and make sure that we are seeing the things that they want to see on the ground. And then lastly, we work very closely with our development services group on development approvals, that one window concept. There have been a lot of improvements there, but there's still a ways to go. Special projects that have already been touched on, so I'll skip over them very quickly. Picton Harbor, the development framework, physician recruitment and retention is something you're going to hear about more in the 2017 budget, and it has come before council recently. And also age-friendly community plan. There hasn't been a lot of discussion about this, but it is something we initiated in 2016, and the plan itself will be concluded at the end of the year, and it'll provide guidance to many departments about the things that elderly people in the county need in terms of the services and amenity and considerations. Now, this is, you've heard about this a few times, and there's a bit of a video here. It's just going to run as I talk about this. This is the new, essentially the community development website called Build a New Life. It was a kind of a rebuild or a rethink of the previous Build a New Life initiative, which was very successful. It was ahead of its time when it did come out. And we've really been shocked by the response to this. It was intended to be a place where we could share really good news stories. We could interact with people who are interested in the county, whether it was to live or to start a new business. I think the big difference was the emphasis of this was not around visitation in any way. This was really about people who were looking to come to the county, and we're sharing stories and information about how to make that possible. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the success of this. So a lot of things are channeling people to build a new life. We've got newsletters that go out. We've got a lot of print promotional material that council has seen. We have digital advertising. We have YouTube campaigns, social media. We have information at our parks. All of these things are channeling people towards this buildanewlife.ca website. And from there, they're connected with us, the staff in the department. There's intake forms there. They give us their email address and information. They connect with us. We're able to interact with them. We're actually able to map out their level of interest by how much time they're spending on the site and what information they're looking at. And then we're able to follow up with kind of those hottest leads per se, or those people that are most likely to engage or invest with the county in some way. So from here, the website provides information, and staff can as well, on available funding, properties, jobs that are available, workshops and training, referrals and networking, and then development intake if we identify that there's a process that needs to start with our development services group. Now, this is kind of the exciting part. We have a system in place where as these leads come in, we can track them. We are now tracking them for the purpose of performance measurement, when they're coming in, what stage in the deal flow that they're in, the value that we can assign to their developments or to their new businesses, and the stage that they're at. And so we can follow up at key times. We've omitted some of the names there, but you can see some of the dollar values when those things are coming in. And the numbers across the top in the darker areas are showing how many of these intakes are at these different stages of development. So this is our sales funnel, and this is the clearest picture of what's happening with this website. We know that there's been 200,000 impressions through social media, and a lot of times with digital marketing, that's where the reporting stops. They say, we've had this many impressions, and it's a big number, and it sounds great, and that's it. But that doesn't tell you what those impressions are garnering, what they're actually accomplishing. And this process actually does. So through those impressions, 30,000 people between, I think it was May, and this number would have been maybe in September, clicked through the social media that they saw to the website. So 30,000 people were interested enough to click through. Of that, 225 people gave us their email addresses and started to download information and subscribe for our newsletter. And of those 225, now that we were engaged with them, we identified 60 new business inquiries, which we were able to value at approximately $32 million if those things all came to fruition. And we were also able to invite those people to the Creative Rural Minds events, which happen quarterly. And that's kind of our way of being an ambassador to these people who might be interested in coming to the county. So you can see as a percentage on the right, this is where a lot of that target audience is, the majority from Toronto. There's a lot of people in Prince Edward County that are accessing the site. They want to see these good news stories about their friends and neighbors. And then smaller percentages from the other areas. But certainly the GTA is where a lot of this interest is coming from. And now, interestingly, we're able to access Google information. So if people have put in their age and profile information with Google and they access our site, we get information about the demographic that is actually engaging with us. And as you can see, the greatest numbers are in the 35 to 44, 25 to 34, and 45 to 54. What's really nice is that we're really we're not just in a senior's age range there. We have a lot of people that are starting young families that are in the prime of their careers that are interested in Prince Edward County. So this is something you may have seen. This is the 2001 population distribution in the county and the 2016 distribution. And you'll see that in 2016, the red bars, there's a big gap, as I'm sure we're not surprised about, from the 20 to 24 all the way up to the 45 to 49. I think we've recognized that. We have an aging population. We've had a challenge attracting young families. And so from 2001 to 2016, as those people have aged, we get a hollowed out area there. You can see how it was different in 2001. The really exciting thing is the target audience that we are hitting and that are engaging with Build a New Life is as follows. So those are the age ranges and demographics of the people that are engaging with us on Build a New Life. And what's really great, I mean, this is what we hoped would happen. Those people fit right into that gap that we're experiencing in the county. The lack of families, the lack of mid-career young professionals. We're connecting directly with the people that we want to be interested in coming to the county to live, to start a business. So that's really good news when we look at those metrics. This is a bit of information about our destination marketing. It has been really successful this past year with the earned media numbers that were mentioned earlier. And I won't go into a lot of detail here because I think a lot of councillors have seen these products and have heard about the campaigns. Youth retention, again, Councillor Roberts mentioned a lot of this. In 2017, we're looking at further support of the ROC's Young Entrepreneur Success Program. They already have 12 local businesses that have committed to engaging with that program. And the Commission is also looking at getting a PECI Youth Commission representative, not a voting member, but one to participate so that we can engage more with the schools. For workforce attraction, and you heard through our BR&E, that was a big thing that we need to look at for 2017. We have started working with the Skilled Trades Department at Loyalist College. We're connecting both with Career Edge and Loyalist on other programs. We're working with some of the entities that have job boards so that we can look to consolidate a lot of that information and make it available to all of the people that are coming through our website. We're growing resident attraction through those Build New Life campaigns. We're looking at expanding our job fair, which has been really successful. We're actually looking at expanding it outside of the county. There are so many jobs that are available, and there's such demand here that we're looking at actually having satellite job fairs just for Prince Edward County in some of our nearby jurisdictions, and there has been interest from the schools in us doing that. And of course, we're going to continue our winter survival workshops. They've been very well subscribed for, this will be the 4th year now. And I've mentioned some of this already. One thing that's interesting, and it came up with the BRNE, is some employers said, well, you know what, I don't have trouble retaining employees, whereas others do. And I think something we recognized that didn't come out in the data, but in the conversations with those 60 businesses, was that some employers, if they're a new business, they don't have the tools or the knowledge about what you need to do to retain staff. And so interestingly enough, in our conversations with Loyalist, they are in the process of developing an employer mentorship program to actually teach employers how to retain staff. And something that they are willing to do for our workshop model this year is to put together a smaller workshop version of that program that we can offer to our employers here. So we think that will be of real benefit. And then I've mentioned some of these other job fair opportunities at other institutions. Affordable housing is something that has come up extensively. For 2017, these are some of the priorities that we have. Council requested an affordable housing RFP for the old Wellington Arena property, so that is going to be coming forward. We are doing an accommodations study to determine the feasibility of roofed hotel accommodations in the county, which we hope will alleviate some of that pressure on vacation rentals. As you know, CIP incentives are going to be coming forward for things like affordable housing, heritage, and other things. The development framework is almost complete. We're looking at partnerships with Pellis because they have funding to inject into Prince Edward County for affordable housing. We're going to do a more detailed review of the vacation rentals issue because this is something facing a lot of jurisdictions now across the country. It's not easily dealt with, and there's a lot of different things being done, so we need to figure out what is that made in the county way of dealing with this. And then we'll continue to look at surplus lands that may come up as potential for affordable housing. I am nearing the end, I promise. I know it's been a long presentation. For visitor services, I won't go through a lot of these challenges, but long story short is the Chamber of Tourism and Commerce has really decided to focus on traditional chamber services and allow the county to once again coordinate visitor services. We had been paying them up until this point to do that. And we decided that because of the changing nature of the county, that program needed to look a little bit different. So firstly, we're going to be looking at wayfinding signage. We are doing that as a part of the downtown revitalization project, so a plan will actually be done in 2016. It won't have to be part of 2017. We're looking at coordinated distribution of materials. We know how many people are distributing things in the county. We're looking at coordinating that to save people on their costs. A dedicated tourism website for the first time for Prince Edward County. Up until this point, we've had an MOU with a private website. We think it's time that we kind of move that initiative, a tourism web presence, maybe forward a generation in some of the technology and the features, and have better control over that. We're looking at tourism ambassador training. There's a partnership with Loyalists that we're working on with that. And the biggest thing, which is this visitor center pilot program. And as Councillor Roberts said, that's working with the private sector in key locations across the county. Because we're so large geographically and have so many entry points, a single visitor center just does not make sense. So we need multiple centers. We can't do that ourselves, so we're working with the private sector to identify ideal sites where businesses can serve as our visitor centers in partnership. And so that's very exciting. That'll be run as a pilot program if approved through our budget when it comes forward to council in 2017. So in closing, we have two of our commissioners, citizen members here. One is a new member and the second has been there since the previous term of council. We thought it would be good if they could offer a few quick insights on their experiences and their relevant sectors because they are areas that have come up in our BRNE as certainly needing some attention moving forward. So I'd like to turn it over quickly to Tim Ward.
Good afternoon, everyone. Councillors, Mr. Mayor, Chair. My name is Tim Ward. I'm a citizen member on the Community Economic and Development Commission. My background is in tourism. My family has owned and operated Quinnies Camp Park. Now we'll be entering our 34th year in business. I'd like to present a few brief notes on the tourism industry. As you can see, the top line is business growth and cottage demand. In the past 5 years, we've seen many new developments start and prosper, especially in the cottage industry. We have seen 6 campgrounds and several cottage developments expand in Prince Edward County. I've also talked to a few other park owners that are looking at expanding their parks and their cottage rental businesses. Most of these developments have been in the cottage lifestyle. Cottage demand is at an all-time high here in Prince Edward County. The cottage home rental business is also quickly growing in Prince Edward County. There's a great deal of optimism in destination tourism in Prince Edward County. Destination tourism helps feed all aspects of our community. Roadside farm stands, downtown shops, restaurants, wineries, trades contractors, jobs, and municipal taxes through bricks and mortar. The capacity in destination tourism is quickly filling in Prince Edward County, and we're going to see more investment. Impact of visitors on the economy. Years ago, visitors to Prince Edward County would come and visit the famous Sandbanks Provincial Park. I would attend trade shows in Toronto and Ottawa, and a lot of people would ask, well, where are you located? We'd say Prince Edward County. They'd look at you and they'd kind of pause for a minute and would say Sandbanks Provincial Park. Oh, I know that area, that's a great area. It's different today. People know Prince Edward County or the county. The economic impact of visitors is greater today. We've seen the expansion of B&Bs, the expansion in the wine industry, microbreweries, distilleries, increased number of amazing restaurants, festivals, events, new and upgraded hotel and motel developments, and cottage developments. Visitors are staying longer, spending more money, and returning to enjoy more of the county. Off-season used to be 7 or 8 months long. The off-season now might be a couple months through the winter, and it's really just a little bit of time to get ready for the next year. These same visitors are potential new investors. I've seen many of my customers move to Prince Edward County. Some have started businesses, invested in properties, purchased homes, or found jobs in the community. That's a side benefit of having a strong tourism sector, potential new investors for the county. The creation and progress of the CEDC. I remember our first ever Community Development Commission meeting. I've been on the commission since its inception. It was called the Community Development Commission at the time, and not too many of us knew what we were signing up for at the time. After a few meetings, we established priorities, action items. I think our greatest success was the council's adoption of the Community Development Strategic Plan. The plan became our guide for economic and community development. The Community Development Commission implemented many initiatives from the strategic plan, too many to list today, and many more to come for 2017. But a few key items was the branding subcommittee and marketing committee for the logo and the redesign of the logo. As mentioned earlier, the harbor subcommittee, which is currently working on completion, as Councillor Roberts mentioned. It's going to promote opportunities for tourism, business, residential, as well as community access and wayfinding for the Picton Harbor. The Community Development Commission provided input for the Community Development Department during the consolidation of destination marketing from Taste the County, and now visitor services, as mentioned from the Chamber of Tourism and Commerce, will fall under the Community Development Department and the Community Development Commission. This is a very brief review of the successes of the Community Economic and Development Commission. The name has changed from Community Development Commission to Community and Economic Development Commission in order to better represent what we do. The Community Economic and Development Commission has such a wealth of experience to offer. Our members include municipal representation, tourism representation, wine industry, construction, retail, commerce, governments, Need some water up here. And also some development and planning experience from existing businesses of commission members. 2017 will have a very large agenda of action items and priority items to work toward. And as a commission member, we look forward to working on these new initiatives and bringing them forward. So thank you very much for your time.
And then lastly, we'll have Adam Busher come forward, our newest commission member, to say a few words before we close.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. And thank you for the opportunity to address council. I've only been on the CEDC, I can't say it, so I'm just going to use the acronym, for a short period of time. However, I'm very impressed by the knowledge and skills of my fellow members. I'm also surprised at the amount of services that the Community Development Department is responsible for. But I've learned quickly that being on the CEDC involves some work, in particular, working to achieve our 2017 key priorities. These priorities include visitor services, affordable housing, workforce attraction, agricultural partnerships, CEDC outreach, and heritage preservation. So by achieving our priorities and supporting our local developers and business, we can increase responsible development and growth, which will not just benefit our tax base, but could also improve our available workforce and consumer base. So as most of you know, I am part of a family-run business which has grown in the community for the last 40 years. And during our time in business, we have endured many challenges. And we've always been somewhat surprised that nobody from the Prince Edward County Development Department has ever reached out and asked the simple question, how can we help you? I spent time talking to lots of other local business owners and developers, and we have determined that I've determined that I'm certainly not the only business person to have these concerns. Most local businesses and developers do not know the staff from the CDD or understand the services that they can offer. So this is why I'm very encouraged by the Business Retention and Expansion Survey and the CDC's proposed Business Owners Forum. The BRNE survey has identified many areas of concern to local businesses. So the twice annual business forum that we're about to do in 2017 will give the CDC staff a chance to meet face-to-face with local business owners and developers. This open dialogue will provide the CDC staff with some feedback, which will hopefully lead to stronger partnerships with both the business and development communities. Thank you.
So, in closing to council, this is really our summary list of the challenges and opportunities that the Commission and the Department are facing in 2017. An aging population, but also we're starting to see the population shift. We know there's a lack of employable youth to fill positions, but certainly a lack of skilled labor as well. What is a good thing that there's this influx of new residents and there's a lot of development pressure creates the challenge in being able to accommodate that, whether that's with our infrastructure, our services, or even the time that, say, our Development Services Department or our department has to devote to all of these inquiries. The development framework is going to be, I think, a great opportunity when that comes forward. There's already a series of 50 draft recommendations that will be a part of that. That will be coming forward to council in short order. We've mentioned affordable housing, vacation rentals, everyone is aware of. The Picton Harbor development is exciting. There is development pressure in that area, and we're hoping that when the harbor plan is complete, it'll provide some guidance there. And we're looking forward to working closely with other departments and the Heritage Advisory Committee on heritage preservation and promotion. So, that is it. And I'm willing to answer any questions or potentially direct the questions to our chair as well about the report or the presentation.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Thank you, members of the commission in attendance. Can I have a mover and a seconder to receive Councillor Neil, Councillor Turpin, all in favor? Questions? Councillor Pennell.
Yeah, I want to commend your people on what they've accomplished so far. But having said that, as we move ahead, and I realize when it comes budget time and that, there has to be a price on everything. But when we look at jobs that are developed, is there a clear breakdown as to what jobs were created because economic development was there versus a lot of places are expanding and no matter what. So as we look at dollars spent, we've got to be able to, okay. Further, on the development in the marina area, I hope as we move ahead on that, we move ahead cautiously because there was some very questionable things that took place when the meetings were held, and we have got to ensure for taxpayers that everything is high and above reproach. And that question is there. So once again, I think these are all things we've got to know. We move into areas that I feel is really beyond the stretch of economic development. I think we lose out on expanding in some areas by being involved in areas really have no business being there. That's only my own opinion. So when it comes budget time, I'm certainly going to like to see those ideas addressed.
Thank you. Councilor Gale.
First of all, thank you to your committee for a very thorough and very informative presentation. I know on another hat that I wear in the community that a lot of people have come to this CEDC and a lot have come here because of that, through social media and all that, so I think you're doing a great job. My question is kind of a call to order. What would be the first time? It has to do with the recent announcement in the community with regard to the school board to closure schools. And I know from a real estate point of view that's a concern because we have more and more, even though it talks about an aging population, which we have, I'm finding that there's a lot of younger people coming from Toronto, Ottawa, whatever, to bring their children here. You want to raise them in a rural environment, they're getting out of the city. What do you see, if any, as your, without getting political, as your involvement in this, as this unwinds over the next 8 months? What role do you see? How can you get involved? I think you know what I'm asking, I just don't know how to ask it. Because that's going to be a question that I'm going to be asked by a lot of parents in my work.
Through the chair, I will do my best to answer a somewhat political question. When we heard about the closures, the pending proposed closures, we were absolutely concerned because I think that those decisions are made with data, obviously, but it's past data. You know, it's very similar to things we're dealing with right now with water, wastewater. You know, you're always making decisions based on old information. And over the past few years, I mean, really kind of 2012, 2013 and forward, coming out of the recession, we've seen a dramatic change here in the county. I was just at an event in Wellington last Friday, and I was astonished by the number of young families pushing around baby strollers in the park. So, I mean, your observations, you know, from people that are moving here, looking for homes, we're seeing that same thing, and we're seeing the interest even through the metrics that we have with our website and the social media. So, and that's our anecdotal experience too, is we're getting calls from those people. So the potential of school closures is extremely concerning. We would be willing to assist in any way possible because and I think, you know, to Councillor Pennell's point, there's a lot of things that we get involved with that don't seem like they fit that traditional mold of economic development. But I think, and this is my own feeling, that the real beauty of the model that was set up 4 years ago was that there was recognition that there are more things involved in economic and community development than just those traditional activities. whether that's the development process, whether that's healthcare, whether that's facilitation of corporate strat plans. We find ourselves having some little role in a lot of different areas, and this would be another one of those things. If we're going to keep that trend of attraction of young families that we are seeing, hopefully we'll actually see this in the numbers when the census information starts to come out in February. If we're going to keep that there, we have to have those amenities there, whether that's a splash pad that we've been talking about as an amenity for families and children, but certainly schools. So the closures are very concerning, and we will help out in whatever way is appropriate, because I do think that it is directly related to and involved in the other things that we're doing.
Councillor Epstein.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to first of all say I'm completely impressed and amazed by the impact that the small budget that you have has been able, like, the distance that's been able to go. To be able to develop analytics and metrics tools within that kind of budget that are giving us so much data now, huge win. I mean, my question is, how can we use this as an example for other departments within the municipality to start to be able to make data gathering a central part? I mean, I know that we do it in some places, but I feel like this is a great example for us moving forward. I also just want to congratulate and voice my approval for the direction of the department to start looking at the role of community and community development and starting to talk about some of the things like affordable housing that we've been trying to talk about for a long time, and to get some other perspectives on it. You know, there are important discussions about vacation rentals that we need to have as a community. So all of that stuff is totally awesome and amazing. I just wanted to say that first of all. My question is just about moving forward. There are a lot of opportunities that come up in every given year, and there's obviously a number of files that you're juggling. So my question is, do you have the capacity, or are you planning to have the capacity to be able to, whether that's in staffing or whether that's in resources that are needed to be able to execute all of these big files? I don't want to underfund this, so that's my question.
Through the chair, I think a question to staff about staffing levels is always a challenge. I've said it before to council that for the most of my time here, we have felt adequately resourced and certainly supported by both the commission and council with funding for our initiatives. This past year, and I mentioned this to council at your strat planning session, is the first time in the past 4 years that us and I think a number of other departments have really felt the crunch on the resources that we have, in particular the human resources. Because the development inquiries are increasing that much, because there are new things like physician recruitment and retention that are becoming priorities, because we don't want to stop doing things that the business community values, like the business retention and expansion program, while we are also trying to deal with challenges with vacation rentals and affordable housing. For the visitor services part of it, the commission, when that budget comes forward in 2017, I think has been able to develop a budget that is almost no change at all from previous years, shifting dollars from what would have been the chamber and some other initiatives over into supporting visitor services. But they do see a contract position to be a part of that. There's no question that will be something that the commission is proposing. We are working with the CAO right now on what the appropriate number of resources, human and otherwise, are in ours and other departments. And so we'll be bringing that forward in a few weeks when council deliberates their budget. But as I've said to you before, we are starting to feel the crunch, and if we keep adding more of these things, other things need to fall off or there needs to be additional resources.
Councilor Maynard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Neil, for your presentation. And yes, it was long and a lot of information. I look forward to more frequent updates so that we're more abreast of what's going on. And I just ask if, because what we had in our package did not include, I was kind of surprised to get an overview of the department in there, but if we could have a copy of that full presentation, because I kind of prepared with what was in front of me, but we had a lot more information than that. I was also surprised to hear that the Community Development Department is now considered the operational arm of the Commission, and that it gets its direction from their strategic plan for their work plan. So really, what we're talking about is a combined budget of what this year, $830,000, and with some increases, we will probably be crowding the $1 million mark. That being said, as a preamble, I did have some specific questions that I had from what was in front of us before. When we talked about the 44 new starts or 60 new starts, it was 2 business starts, so there's a couple different figures there. I'm just wondering, who are these people so that we can celebrate them? And I think it's important too that to get meaningful performance metrics, that we know what our baseline. And I know we've talked about this for 4 years. I've been one to ask questions about, it's okay to see what we've gained, but if we don't know what we've lost or where we started from. And I noticed that there was a little question mark there about resources, about gathering that necessary baseline data. Just wondering, if we get a list of who these 60 businesses are and what we started with and where we are now.
Neil.
Through the chair. Before I answer the 44 businesses question, I just want to comment on the comment that we're the operational arm of the Commission. And I think what we'd actually said was effectively, we serve like that operational arm. To be clear, my department does not report to the Commission. We are the resource to the Commission. We work alongside the Commission in parallel, and we look to their strategic plan in the same way they look to their strategic plan. But there are many things, as I think we've touched on, that are not included in what the Commission looks after, that the department looks after under the direction of the CAO. In terms of the budget, you're right, and a lot of my counterparts in other municipalities, if they were just looking at that bottom line number, would want to come here because it looks like they have 5 times as much resources dedicated to economic development. I think the big difference there is that hub and spoke diagram that I showed, that those departments do 2, maybe 3 of those things. And so if you were to separate all the rest of those activities out to the departments that would usually do them in other municipalities, you would move a lot of those dollars to those departments as well. And our DC incentive is also included in our operating budget. So each year, the operating budget includes whatever those DC incentives are, and that's not directly related to our operations, but that's where it is housed. So I just want to make sure that you understand that. The 44 new business starts, and I believe the 16 or 18 expansions, those were all directed through the Small Business Center, which we fund, well, the Commission funds, $15,000, and that allows Sandy Abbott to spend 2 to 3 days a week in the county. She has been an incredible resource to us. She refers a lot of people to us. She refers a lot of her intake clients to Pella CFDC, to Career Edge. I would argue that just her intake numbers alone, which is what we're presenting here, is not even a full measure of the impact, because some of those people go on to be Pella's metrics because they provide them with grants, and then there's equipment that are purchased, or there's internship programs that are accessed to get more people working for those people that Sandy has brought through. So that's where those numbers come from. And then the 60 that are kind of the business leads are people that we're currently in the process of working with. The baseline information is absolutely important. In fact, I couldn't agree more. It's why we've developed that performance measurement framework. I think when council sees that, they'll see that we are planning to establish baseline data in a number of different areas. We have current census baseline information, so we'll get a sense when the new census information comes out and the National Household Survey, as that rolls out over the course of 2017, of the changes over the past 4 years. Plus, we'll have some baseline information that we can assess all of our future activities against. So that will definitely be part of our regular reporting, as the councillor has requested. I think we recognize that does need to be more regular, if for nothing else than to shorten these presentations at the end of the year.
Councillor Fox.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kind of a follow-up on what Councillor Epstein was talking about in the fact that, future resources, be it staffing or be it dollars. And I think you partially answered my question in terms of you kind of have a plan B, I hope, in that there's going to be tremendous pressure on the limited budgeted dollars that we have. And so the danger that I see, because your department is growing, and it's growing quite rapidly, and I prefer that, that you end up doing 5 things, but you do a really good job at those 5 things, instead of trying to do 20 things and failing. And so that's my concern.
Sure. Through the chair, I share the concern with the councillor. As I said, this is the first year that, because the demands have been so great, that we've started to feel that pressure, started to feel that worry. That's not to say that we are trying to take on more things just for the sake of taking on things. I think that there are a lot of initiatives like the development framework, like Picton Harbour, which have shown up in strategic plans. They've been reinforced by your corporate strategic plan. And as those things conclude, it will alleviate some of that pressure. I don't think that we are failing up until this point. I mean, that's not my sense. But if the workload were not to change or the resources were not to be provided, then I would have concern about that moving forward. And I'm sure we'll discuss that at budget time.
Councillor Maynard, quickly, sorry to cut you off last time.
That's okay. I'll wait for my second turn. So my question is, because you have an ambitious work plan, when I see things like a heritage plan and an agricultural subcommittee, like there's already committees of council that are dealing substantially with this work, and I just maybe some comment on trying not to duplicate or try not to spread yourself too thin. And the other question was regarding the Bay of Quinte tourism that's morphed into the Bay of Quinte Regional Marketing Board, and the concern that we not dilute our brand and all the other stuff that's going on, and when that will come back to council for ratification.
Through the chair, I'm sorry, just the first part of your question, Janice?
Sorry, it was about the heritage plan and the
yes.
agricultural plan
Okay.
that are listed as your 2017 work plan, but I mean, we just heard from Heritage Advisory Committee. We have now an active Heritage Agriculture Advisory Committee that is dealing with exactly the same issues that you've listed.
So the first one, the Heritage Master Plan, I believe in the notes it states that we are not recommending to go forward with that for the very reason that you've pointed out. It is listed in our strategic plan, our community development strat plan. For 2 years in a row now, we have identified that would simply be too large a task for us to take on given some of the other work, so it has been pushed back. There's also some desire to have had the new PHAC committee formed and potentially participate or maybe even take a lead in that process. So that is on the back burner currently, because we wouldn't have the resources to tackle that, and we'll certainly have some discussions with planning and PHAC about how that work would be rolled out. when it does happen. For the agricultural subcommittee, the idea of an actual subcommittee was really secondary to the desire to see more collaboration and interaction between traditional agriculture and new agriculture, whether that's the wineries or the craft breweries or rural landowners that are looking to do have alternative uses on their agricultural land. That's a dialogue that we weren't aware was happening very much. It's one of the reasons why we invited over the past 2.5 years members from PIFA and from the PECWA, Wine Growers Association in the county, to come and speak to the commission because we had heard that there wasn't a lot of dialogue between those groups. We recognize that an existing committee of council is in place. I think up until now they typically deal with specific issues. Right now it's with the LEAR and the OP review. And they'll deal with those things periodically, but they're not currently a forum for constant dialogue. Like I said, the commission's intent was to see that dialogue occur, and so if the committee already exists, they would have no problem, I think, simply supporting that dialogue occurring in that venue, as opposed to duplicating another committee. And that goes for a few different initiatives there. Just because the initiatives or the priorities are mentioned doesn't mean that's a direct service delivery from staff or from the commission. It may mean that they advocate for those things to happen elsewhere where they're more appropriately housed. Your last question about Bay of Quinte, we were a member of Bay of Quinte Living for the past 2 years. They merged Living and Tourism, which was not a decision, was actually not supported by the county. So we became a part of this interim board that was in place. For that reason, we're participating in helping them design a new governance model. But the commission has in no way determined that it wants to be at that table yet. Doesn't even really know what that table looks like because all of that is still in process. Councillor O'Brien sits there and represents the commission, and myself and the vice chair and the chair participated in a lot of those discussions. It is a significantly political decision. We recognize that, even though it is about marketing. While I feel that the commission's terms of reference would support them making a decision to be there or not, staff's advice would likely be to make a recommendation to council to make that choice because of how political a decision it is.
Councillor Turpin, you have the last word, and then I've got a brief
No, I
question.
just like to thank everybody for the presentation. I think it was a great presentation, very informative, and I'm glad to see over the years the growth of the CEDC, and it's very apparent as to where they started and how they've grown and what they're going to do with the performance measures and so on. So I think it's been a progressive step, and it keeps going and gaining ground, and I'm glad to see it, and I'd just like to congratulate all those that have been involved, and it's something that's been very good for us. Thank you.
And thank you very much, Neil. It was a great presentation, very enlightening, and certainly confirms that we made the right move moving down here 8 years ago. Got just one question. The Build a New Life program, is that phrase copyrighted, Build a New Life?
Through the chair, I don't believe it is copyrighted. I don't know if we can copyright the phrase. We may be able to trademark it for the purpose of the website, though. It is not currently, no.